You sure that is a uniform? Looks more like a scarecrow costume. That is what someone laughed when the old farmer walked into the supply store. Boots muddy, jacket torn and patches faded. No one offered help. One clerk whispered, "You probably bought that at a flea market." But 3 days later, when the mayor asked for a name to honor at the Memorial Day ceremony, the Pentagon sent back one file, and it was classified under vault access only. If you believe not every hero looks polished, but every medal has a story, comment honor him below. The morning fog clung to the fields as Samuel Sam Harlow finished his chores. At 81, his movements were slower but no less precise. Decades of discipline had shaped his routine. Up at 4:30 a.m. to tend his modest farm outside Oak Ridge. Today, the fence along his eastern property line needed repair. A fallen branch had damaged several posts during last night's storm. Sam knew from experience that prevention was cheaper than remedy. He pulled on his faded army jacket, the same one he had worn since the late 1970s. What had once been crisp military issue now looked like any farmer's work coat, except for the barely discernible unit insignia still visible on the shoulder. The drive into town took 15 minutes. Sam parked at Anderson's Farm Supply, the same store his father had frequented 50 years earlier. Spring meant new faces in Oak Ridge. Contractors and seasonal workers arriving for the building boom. A group of them stood near the entrance drinking coffee, sizing up everyone who entered. Sam walked past them, mud caking his boots. His worn cap pulled low. One of the younger men nudged his companion. "Look at that guy playing dress up or stuck in the past." Sam heard them, but kept walking. After a lifetime of service followed by decades of solitude, other people's opinions had become like distant radio stations. Occasionally audible, but rarely worth tuning into. Inside, he made his way to the fencing supplies. His hands, strong despite their age and arthritis, selected wire cutters, fence staples, and a replacement post hole digger. At the register, a new clerk, college-aged, with a name tag reading Tyler, wrinkled his nose as Sam approached. The morning's mud had dried on Sam's boots, flaking onto the clean floor. "Sir, are you sure you are in the right place? Military surplus is down the highway." His tone carried the dismissive edge of youth addressing age. "Just these," Sam replied, placing his items on the counter and reaching for his wallet. "Nice jacket," Tyler continued, not letting it go. "My grandfather had one from Vietnam." Sam said nothing, just counted out exact change as he gathered his purchases and turned to leave. One of the contractors from outside, now in line behind him, muttered audibly. Probably one of those fake veterans looking for discounts. Sam walked out slowly, not ashamed, just tired. Some battles were not worth fighting, and he had fought enough real ones to know the difference. That same week, Mayor Elizabeth Collins initiated Oak Ridge's annual Memorial Day planning with a community-wide email. "This year, we are honoring one veteran from each generation at our Memorial Day ceremony. World War II through present conflicts. Please send nominations to my office by Friday." The message circulated through town. At Anderson's Farm Supply, the employees gathered for their morning meeting when the email arrived. "Anyone have relatives we should nominate?" asked Margaret, the store manager. Several suggestions emerged. A grandfather who had served in the Pacific. An uncle who had been in Desert Storm. Tyler, scrolling through the email on his phone, smirked. "Hey, what about that old guy with the beat-up army jacket? The farmer. I bet he would love to dress up and tell war stories." "Sam Harlow," Margaret asked, frowning. "Yes, that guy. He comes in covered in mud, wearing that torn-up jacket like it is some kind of trophy." Tyler laughed. "We should nominate him. Give him his moment of glory." "That is not funny." "Tyler," Margaret began, but the young man had already hit reply on his phone. Later that day, he crafted a brief nomination. Samuel Harlow, local farmer, always wears an old army jacket. Nominating him for the senior veteran category. He added a note. "This guy still thinks he is G.I. Joe." He showed the sent email to a coworker, both snickering at what they considered a harmless joke. At City Hall, Diane Peterson, the mayor's assistant for 27 years, sorted through the incoming nominations. Most were familiar names. The town's recognized veterans. But when she came to Sam Harlow's name, she paused. "Sam Harlow," she whispered. The name triggered a distant memory from when she first started working for the previous mayor. Diane pulled up the town's veteran registry and found nothing. Harlow's checked county records. Still nothing. Following protocol for unverified nominations, She forwarded the name to her Department of Defense contact. A courtesy verification they did for all potential honorees. 2 days later, a government courier in a dark suit arrived at City Hall with a sealed envelope marked official communication addressee only. The return address simply read Department of Defense Special Veterans Affairs Division. Mayor Collins was in a budget meeting, so Diane signed for the envelope. The courier gave her a verbal message. Tell the mayor she will need to call the number inside immediately regarding the Harlow nomination. When the mayor returned and opened the envelope, her expression shifted from curiosity to shock. She immediately called Diane into her office and closed the door. Did you know about this? She asked, holding a single sheet of paper with numerous redactions. Know what, ma'am? The mayor read aloud. Samuel Harlow. Operation Sand Knife. Operation Whisper Lead. Medal of Honor. Pending declassification. Current file restricted under presidential order. Pentagon vault access only. Diane's eyes widened. Wait, this is Sam Harlow, the one who lives off County Road 9. The farmer. The mayor nodded, then picked up her phone to call the number provided. The brief conversation was mostly one-sided. When she hung up, she looked at Diane with newfound reverence. A Department of Defense representative will be attending our ceremony, she said quietly. Apparently, honoring Sam Harlow requires special protocols. Why? What did he do? Diane asked. The mayor shook her head. They would not say, but the man I spoke with told me something I will never forget. That is not just a farmer. That is the ghost every black ops trainer studies. The nomination that had begun as a joke had revealed something neither Tyler nor anyone else in Oak Ridge had imagined. The quiet farmer in the worn jacket carried secrets classified at the highest levels of government. As word began to filter through the town offices that something unusual was happening with the Memorial Day plans, the weight of unknown service and the casual disrespect shown to a man whose record was too sensitive to even acknowledge settled uncomfortably on those who had witnessed Sam's treatment. Not every file is public. Not every name is whispered until the country remembers who protected it. Comment. Salute him if you believe some legends grow quietly and feed nations while they wait. Memorial Day in Oak Ridge typically followed a predictable pattern. A modest gathering at the town square. The high school band playing patriotic songs and brief speeches from the mayor and a few recognized veterans. This year was different. Word had spread that something unusual was happening. The mayor's office had been unusually tight-lipped about the ceremony details, and rumors circulated about special guests from Washington. At 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the scheduled start, for black suburban SUVs with government plates turned onto Main Street. They parked near City Hall, and men in dark suits with earpieces emerged, scanning the growing crowd with professional detachment. The townspeople watched as the security detail established positions around the small stage erected in the town square. At precisely 9:45, Mayor Collins approached the microphone, her usual casual demeanor replaced by something more formal. Good morning, Oak Ridge. Today we gather to honor those who served our nation in uniform. Our Memorial Day ceremony usually focuses on those we have lost, but today we also recognize the living who carried burdens we can never fully understand. She paused, her eyes finding someone in the crowd. Before we begin, I would like to welcome a special guest from the Pentagon. Lieutenant General William Hayward, Deputy Director of Special Operations Command. A distinguished man in full dress uniform, chest heavy with ribbons and medals, took the stage. His bearing was unmistakably military, the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. Thank you, Mayor Collins, the general began. I am here today representing the Secretary of Defense and by extension the President of the United States. A murmur ran through the crowd. Nothing like this had ever happened in Oak Ridge. Before we begin today's ceremony, we would like to acknowledge a man who requested to remain anonymous throughout his life, but whose actions overseas changed more lives than we will ever be able to name. Two of the suited men approached a figure at the edge of the crowd. Sam Harlow, freshly shaven, his worn jacket pressed as best as aged fabric would allow. They escorted him toward the stage with a deference that stunned onlookers. Tyler, the clerk from Anderson's Farm Supply, stood frozen in the back row, recognition and horror dawning on his face as he watched the man he had mocked being treated with such respect. As Sam climbed the steps to the stage, every military veteran in the crowd recognized something. In general, Hayward's tone rose to attention and saluted, though none of them knew exactly why. Mr. Harlow has declined to speak today, the general continued. His humility is as legendary as his service. I can tell you that his missions remain classified. His medals are secured in vaults few have clearance to access. But today, we honor him not with headlines, but with presence. Mayor Collins looked visibly stunned as she watched Sam, the quiet farmer most townsfolk barely noticed, standing beside one of the highest-ranking officers in the military. While I cannot discuss the specifics of Mr. Harlow's service, General Hayward continued, I am authorized to acknowledge that operations he participated in during the Cold War saved countless American lives and fundamentally altered our nation's security posture. There are fewer stars on the memorial wall at Langley because of this man's courage. The crowd had fallen completely silent. The general turned to face Sam directly. Mr. Harlow, on behalf of a grateful nation that has never properly thanked you due to the nature of your service, I present you with this presidential citation. He handed Sam a framed document bearing the presidential seal. The old farmer accepted it with a simple nod. No smile, no tears, just the quiet acknowledgement of a man accustomed to doing extraordinary things without recognition. In the back row, Tyler sat with his head bowed, the weight of his casual cruelty toward a genuine hero crushing his previous arrogance. The contractors who had mocked Sam's appearance shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet each other's eyes. Margaret from the farm supply store wiped tears from her eyes. She had always been kind to Sam, but had never suspected the magnitude of the man who bought fence posts and cattle feed with exact change and minimal conversation. As the ceremony continued, the town of Oak Ridge collectively reckoned with how easily they had dismissed a giant who had walked silently among them for decades. A man whose muddy boots had once stood on ground so classified that even acknowledging his presence there remained a matter of national security. Sam declined to give a speech that day. He simply nodded his acknowledgement of the honor, shook the general's hand with the firm grip of a man who still mended fences at 81, and returned to his seat. But something fundamental shifted in Oak Ridge after that Memorial Day ceremony. The town council voted unanimously to place a special plaque in the town square. Unlike most military memorials with elaborate descriptions of service and sacrifice, this one, at Sam's insistence, simply read, "To the one who walked quietly while others watched loudly." The plaque became a point of reflection for townspeople and visitors alike. Its deliberate, unclear wording prompting questions that led to the story of the farmer whose service was too classified to celebrate, but too significant to ignore. The following spring, the Memorial Day parade route was officially changed. Rather than beginning at City Hall, as it had for decades, it now started at the entrance to Sam's farm off County Road 9. The simple gesture acknowledged what everyone now understood. True service did not always come with ribbons and public praise. Tyler, the young clerk who had mocked Sam's appearance, found himself changed by the experience. He sought out the old farmer one afternoon, driving out to the property with the weight of apology heavy on his shoulders. Sam was fixing a fence, the same eastern line that had needed repair the day of their unfortunate encounter at the store. "Mr. Harlow," Tyler began, his practiced apology suddenly useless in the presence of the man himself. "I came to say I am sorry for how I treated you, for what I said." Sam studied him for a moment, then handed him a post-hole digger. "Rather have your effort than your words, son." They worked side by side for 2 hours. Tyler's skin peeled off his hands, learning the weight of real labor. Sam's aged ones demonstrating the efficiency of experience. No further apology was offered or needed. Sam's muddy boots, the ones that had tracked dirt into Anderson's farm supply, were ceremonially framed in a glass case at the Oak Ridge Historical Museum. The display label written by the mayor herself read simply, "These boots protected ground you will never walk on." His army jacket remained exactly what it had always been, a useful garment for a working farmer. Sam wore it every Thursday when he came to town for supplies. Its worn fabric and faded patches now recognized for what they truly represented, the quiet dignity of extraordinary service. People did not ask if it was real anymore. They nodded. They said thank you. Some saluted. And once a year, a Department of Defense vehicle still stopped by the farm to check on the man with no medals on display, because the real ones were not meant to be shown. They were meant to be remembered. Subscribe to Steelheart Stories if you believe some uniforms get dirty, not from pretending, but from protecting the land they still walk on.